What's going on, guys? Tomahawk Warrior, and we are back doing another MTG Arena Historic Brawl deck. This time, we're doing Rats, Rats, Rats. This is a new deck that I made in IRL, and it took me a while to assemble the amount of rats that are required for this deck, but this deck has performed extremely well in my personal play group, so I thought that I would make a version of it in MTG Arena and just show you guys just how cool this deck could be. So, I do want to put a quick disclaimer in this video. At the time of this recording, Pyrexia All Will Be One is currently the second newest set. So I did include some of the newer cards from that. Normally I don't do that in my videos. I use a majority of the older cards that we have access to. Normally because a lot of the newer cards are extremely expensive and or I just don't have them yet. So I don't want to talk about cards that I don't have. But yeah, I did actually open up Blightbelly Rat and the Rat King from some packs, so I did put those in my IRL deck, so I feel like I can talk about them. Anywho, guys, so we are going to start this video off with Marrow-Gnawer. So I don't use the Rat King as my commander. Marrow-Gnawer is just a better commander. His ability to give all rats fear, I feel, is incredibly powerful, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So Marrow-Gnawer is a 5-cost 2/3 rat rogue. All rats have fear. You can tap, sacrifice a rat, create X 1/1 black rat creature tokens, where X is the number of rats you control. So that is an incredibly powerful ability that allows rats to just absolutely get out of control so much faster than they already can. If you've ever played against rats, you know the pain from trying to deal with the rat colonies in this deck. But now Marrow-Gnawer, allowing them to just continue to build advantage so quickly is something that I've found a lot of decks really struggle with. We're looking to use his commander ability as well as the fear to kind of push through the early game, and then mid game we're just at a point where we can swarm, and there's really not much that our opponents can do at that point. So going through the deck, we have Dark Ritual. Obviously Dark Ritual is an instant, cost 1, add 3 black mana to your field or to your hand. Pretty standard card. Put this in all your black decks that you can, because it allows you to get your commander and or important cards out quicker than you would normally be able to. Next, we have Echoing Return. It's a 1-cost sorcery. Return target creature and all other cards with that same name as that card from your graveyard to your hand. So we do run about 30 rat colonies in this deck. So Echoing Return allows us to recoup all those cards from the graveyard once they've either been board wiped or they've been sacrificed either to Marrow-Gnawer or some of our other cards to crew advantage. So this allows them to get back in our hands, regaining that advantage. And basically by the point where you're playing this card, you should have at least 6 mana on the field, so you're going to be dumping 3 rats instantly onto the field. So you're not really even slowing the deck down by sacrificing our rats. Next, we have Gnawing Vermin. It is a 1/1 rat for 1. When Gnawing Vermin enters the battlefield, target player mills 2 cards. When Gnawing Vermin dies, target creature you don't control gets -1/-1 to the end of the turn. So one thing about my rat decks, my rat deck, guys, that I'm going to say right now is that I do include a lot of non-rat colony rats in my deck, which some people might find kind of weird. However, I have a bad experience with cards like Maelstrom Pulse that just, will obliterate your board and you're kind of screwed. I mean, any board wipe will hurt this deck, but something like a Maelstrom where it just wipes all your rat colonies out, it just kind of hurts a bit more than just a traditional board wipe, at least in my mind, because your opponents can use it to target just your board and not theirs. So I do try to play other rats that have different names just so that my deck doesn't get completely screwed over by a single board wipe like Maelstrom Pulse. Also, Gnawing Vermin having the -1/-1 when it dies is great. It'll get rid of, one of those stupid Pyrexine tokens with Toxic and some of those other 1/1 cards that your opponent's probably not going to attack or block with, like Soul's Attendant. So, good card. Get it out early. Great. Screws with your opponent's deck, and then late game you sacrifice it to Marrow-Gnawer to make, 30 rats. Next, we do have Typhoid Rats. It's a 1/1 1-cost rat with Death Touch. Pretty simple. Next, we do have Village Rites. It is a 1-cost instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. Not a big deal. We want things like Gnawing Vermin to die, so fine. And then, like I said, it does draw us 2 cards, which is nice. Because we do use sack outlets in this deck, either to crew advantage with card draw, or to create more cards with Marrow-Gnawer. We do run Blood Artist. Blood Artist is a 2-cost 0/1 vampire. Whenever this card or another creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. So Blood Arts just helps us to ping down our opponent slowly over time, get us some life so we don't die to a massive board wipe and swarming, because we want to be the ones that swarm. Next, we have the first of our many rat ninjas. So I just call this card Prowler because yeah, I'm not good with words. So Prowler is a 2-cost 3/1 ninja rat ninjutsu for 1 and a black. When this card enters the battlefield, put a death touch counter and a lifelink counter on target creature you control. So the reason I do include this specific ninjutsu card in the deck is because he only costs 2, so he costs the same amount as a rat colony. He's stronger than a rat colony, and then when he enters the battlefield, he puts a death touch and a life link counter on a creature that we control. So we put that on something like Marrow-Gnawer or Pack Rat, something that over time gets really, really big. So it has death touch, so our opponents don't want to block it, and then it has lifelink, so it's just creating us advantage. And then if necessary, once I'm swinging with my other little rats, I can just ninjutsu one of those rats out to put this card in its place. That 1/1 rat turns into a 3/1, catches people off guard, and as it enters the battlefield with that ninjutsu, it is putting that death touch and lifelink counter on something. So perhaps my opponent's blocking with something they didn't think was going to all of a sudden have death touch, and it gets rid of that problematic card. So all in all, I found this card to be decent enough that I would put it in the deck. Next, we do have Argyl's Bloodfast. It is a legendary equipment. Pay 1 and a black. As well, pay 2 life, draw a card. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 5 or less, you may transform this card. When it does transform, it becomes a legendary land. Tap, add black. Tap, sacrifice a creature, you gain life equal to the sacrifice creature's toughness. So we're not going to get a lot of value off of the sacrificing a creature to gain life equal to that card's toughness. However, the paying 2 mana and 2 life to draw a card is really good. So I do find that this card is nice. It doesn't force me to do it every turn, so I can elect to do it, which is why I find this a little bit better than stuff like Phyrexian Arena, where you just have to do it every turn. So it does give you a bit of control over the board state and your life state. So I like this card a bit better. Next, we have Blightbelly Rat. Blightbelly Rat, a new card from Phyrexia, all will be 1. It is a 2-cost 2/2 Phyrexian Rat with Toxic. When Blightbelly Rat dies, proliferate. So Toxic works very similar to Infect, where if a creature with Toxic hits your opponent, they get a Toxic counter. Once they've gotten 10 Toxic counters, they just lose the game. So, yeah. Not really fair, but whatever. We roll with it. So this card is fantastic. It has the Toxic one. It's super cheap, and then when it dies, you proliferate. So as long as this or another card with Toxic swings on your opponent and you proliferate when this card dies, you're getting the best advantage you can out of this card. Next, we do have Burglar Rat. It is a 2-cost 1/1 rat. When Burglar Rat enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. So good enough. It does hurt your opponent's hand because they have to ditch something. If you don't want this card, you could replace it with just another rat colony. However, I do like reducing my opponent's hand size. Next, we have Deadly Dispute. It is a 2-cost instant. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature. Draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. 2 mana is not bad. Sacrificing a creature isn't that bad either. Drawing 2 cards is great, and creating a treasure token is always nice. So to control the early game, we do run Go for the Throat. It is a 2-cost instant. Destroy target non-artifact creature. Pretty simple. Just use it. Get rid of whatever your opponent has that you don't want to deal with. Next, we run Grafted Rats. It is a 2-cost 2/1 rat. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, if you own this and a card named Midnight Scavengers, exile them and meld them into Chittering Host. We don't run Midnight Scavengers because that card just doesn't fit in the deck. So we just have Grafted Rats. If you don't want to run Grafted Rats, get rid of it, put another rat colony in, and it'll basically do the same thing. Next, we do have Heartless Act. It is a 2-cost instant. Just choose 1, destroy target creature with no counters on it, or remove up to 3 counters from target creature. So this works as a 2-cost just spot removal card. Speaking of spot removal, we do run Infernal Grasp. It is a 2-cost instant. Destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. So all those cards work pretty similar. They're just helping you to get rid of whatever problematic creature your opponent has. They all cost 2 mana, so they're not a lot of investment, which is why we run those specific creature killing cards instead of things like Murder, which is 3-cost. Next, we have Nezumi Cutthroat. It is a 2-cost 2/1 rat warrior with fear. This card can't block. Creatures with fear can't be blocked except by artifact creatures or black creatures. So against a non-black deck, this card just basically it's to punch your opponent for free. It's a little bit more than the rat colonies just because it can't be blocked by certain things, which is why it's in the deck. Next, we have Pack Rats. It is a 2-cost rat. Pack Rats power and toughness are equal to the number of rats you control. You can pay 2 and a black, discard a card, create a token that's a copy of Pack Rats. So, a lot of versatility on this card. Over time, it's getting bigger. I can ditch a card to create another pack rat, which then is also big. So really, really good card. It's just an auto include in all rat decks. Speaking of kind of an auto include, we do run Piper of the Swarm. Piper of the Swarm is a 2-cost 1/3 human warlock. Rats you control have menace. You can pay 1 black tap, create a 1/1 black rat creature token. You can pay 4 and tap, sacrifice 3 rats, gain control of target creature. This is another pretty staple card for the rat decks that I've seen, at least in the past. This card, giving your creatures menace where they can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures, is great, allowing your giant rat colonies or pack rats to hit your opponent for basically free. The ability to create black rat creature tokens that we can either then sacrifice, they're being used to buff up pack rats and rat colonies, is great. And then the ability to sacrifice 3 tokens to gain control over target creature is fantastic. So very, very versatile card. Super, super good. Next, we run Playcrafter's Familiar. It is a 2-cost 1/1 rat with Death Touch. When this card enters the battlefield, choose target creature card in your hand. It permanently gains Death Touch. So again, pretty niche. It is a bit weaker than the rat colonies. However, it itself has Death Touch, and it's going to give one of your cards in your hand Death Touch, which is really nice. Death Touch is always annoying to deal with. You don't want to block it with, your giant creature that's, kind of your win condition. Force your opponents to deal with 2 cards that they probably weren't going to have to deal with. Next, we have Power Word Kill. It is a 2-cost instant. Destroy target non-angel, non-demon, non-devil, non-dragon creature. So if you're playing against angel, demon, dragon, tribal, you are screwed. Otherwise, this is a great 2-cost kill spell. Now, we have the core of our deck, Rat Colonies. It is a 2-cost 2/1 rat. Rat colonies get +1/+0 for each other rat you control. A deck can have any number of cards named rat colonies. Like I said, this is the meat of the deck. These rat colonies are amazing. They work with every other rat card in the deck, including the tokens that we can generate, which will buff them to kind of ludicrous amounts of power, and it'll buff them really quickly. Like, you might not think having, 5 rats on the field is a problem. Just say all 5 of those are rat colonies. Each rat colony is then a 6/1. Like, that's incredible, because you can get these out really quick. God forbid you have something like Marrow-Gnawer on the field. That means they all have fear, so they're now unblockable. You can kill your opponent really quick with these cards. The picture that I just showed, guys, shows what these rat colonies can do. In that picture, I was able to Throwing Stone into 20 rat colonies, or 21 rat colonies. I sacrificed 1 to Marrow-Gnawer to make 20 rat tokens. So each one of my rat colonies was a 42, a 43/2 rat. Just because I did have an enchantment on the field that was buffing them. But yeah, at that point, that's just kind of game. If I had swung at my opponent with all those rat colonies, I would have done 860 damage in 1 turn. That's ludicrous. Like, that should not be a thing in MTG, but it is. And it's because rat colonies work so well with this deck. So, incredibly powerful cards, guys. Get them while you can. Only thing that sucks is that they do cost quite a bit in real life. Next, we do have Ruin Rat. It is a 2-cost 1/1 rat with Death Touch. When this card dies, exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. So I don't really like to run things like Bajuka Bog unless I really have to. So Ruin Rat does help me get rid of target problematic card in my opponent's graveyard that my opponent's using to recycle to gain advantage. So this card just helps to deal with things like that, which is always really nice to have if you don't have a Bajuka Bog on hand. And then, like I said, it is a rat with Death Touch and works with our rat colonies. Next, we do run Signed in Blood. It is a 2-cost sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. I don't know why you wouldn't include this card in any black deck that you could. Now we do have a non-rat card, which I think is a bit of a flavor text for me. You want to get rid of this card? Fine, go ahead. But we do have Yara, the First of Lothwain. It is a 3-cost 2/3 Elf Noble. When this card or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. You can tap, sacrifice another black creature, draw a card. So again, we were talking about what we can do with these rat colonies, the rat tokens that we generate. This will help us control our opponent, but when cards are coming in, it's pinging them for damage, giving us life, and then we can tap, sacrifice one of those cards to accrue advantage through drawing. If you do have this card on the field and Throwing Stone in real life, you're just going to win the game for the amount of damage you can ping your opponent for. Fortunately, in MTG Arena, we don't have access to Throwing Stone because it would be maybe a little too strong for this format. But yeah, really, really good card. I personally would never cut this card. Next, we do run Blood Pact. It is a 3-cost instant. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Because all these cards in the deck are so cheap, I've tried to put a lot of draw power in this deck. So the paying the 2 life and the 3 mana isn't a big issue because you're drawing 2 cards, which refills your hand. It's just really good to have the draw power in this deck. So this is was an auto include for me. Next, we do have Karu Monix, the Rat King. It is a 3-cost 3/3 Pyrexian Rat, Toxic 1. Other rats you control have Toxic 1. When this card enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of rat cards from among them and put the revealed cards in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. So this card is what most people would assume would be the go-to commander for a rat deck. However, I find this to be a better utility card than my dedicated commander. While he is incredibly strong with the Toxic 1 and all the rats have Toxic 1, I have found that using him as a commander does cause the deck to struggle a little bit because as good as rats are with that toxic ability, they still have to get through your opponent to deal that damage, where Marrow-Gnawer allows your cards to get through your opponent's board by giving them all fear. So I'd rather have the Rat King as a utility card and Marrow-Gnawer as my commander. If you don't like that, then 100% switch them around. Have the Rat King as your commander and Marrow-Gnawer as that just niche cool card in your deck. Like I said, I've just found Marrow-Gnawer to be a better commander. The Rat King does help refill your hand when he does come in, which is kind of nice. Why he is such a valued commander. However, if it was putting those cards onto the battlefield, I would 100% have him as my commander. Next, I do have another non-rat card, Murderous Rider. It is a 3-cost 2/3 zombie knight. You can cast it for its adventure cost to destroy a target creature or planeswalker. You lose 2 life. Or you can play it as a zombie knight where it has lifelink, and when it dies, put on the bottom of its owner's library. So Murderous Rider is a utility, just spot removal card for 3. If you just want to cast it as a creature, you can. Basically, for me, how I use Murderous Riders, I just use it for its instant adventure cost to get rid of a problematic creature, and then it can just sit in kind of limbo for a bit. If I do need it, I'll play it, but 9 times out of 10, after it's killed something, it just doesn't do anything from there. Next, we have our part of our win condition with Vito the Duskrose. He is a 3-cost 1/3 Vampire Cleric. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. You can pay 5 to give all creatures you control lifelink to the end of the turn. Because I do run Exquisite Blood in this deck, I do need to have Vito in there for the infinite combo. While I don't find that I pull off that infinite loop often, I do like having it in the deck just because with Marrow-Gnawer, I can get rats through to deal damage. So it is kind of easy to get this infinite win combo off once you do have the pieces on the field. However, 9 times out of 10, you're just gonna end up swarming your opponent with the rats. So it is a very flavor style of gameplay, I'd say. And if you do not want to include Vito or Exquisite Blood in your deck, by all means take them out and replace them with something else that you like better. But for me, I just do like having that instant win where I know, like, okay, this game's going really long. All board states are really strong right now. You just draw the last piece that you need for your infinite combo, you play them, and then your opponent can't stop it, and you win the game. I do run Heraldic Banner in this deck. Heraldic Banner is a 3-cost artifact. When it enters battlefield, choose a color. Creatures you control of the chosen color get +1/+0. Tap, add 1 mana of the chosen color. Because we don't have access to Blood Moon in MTG Arena, I do use Heraldic Banner as my utility board buffer. I would like to have access to Bad Moon instead of Heraldic Banner. Because we don't have access to Bad Moon, Heraldic Banner does feel that little niche in the deck. Next, we have Exquisite Blood, like I explained earlier with Vito. It forms the infinite combo. If you don't want to have this card and Vito in your deck, take them out. It's fine. Next, we do run Ogre Slumlord. Ogre Slumlord is a 5-cost 3/3 Ogre Rogue. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you may create a 1/1 black rat creature token. Rats you control have Death Touch. So it's a pretty good card for the rat deck, giving all my rats Death Touch, and then whenever my non-token rats die, it creates a 1/1 black rat token, which is always nice because you can sacrifice them with Marrow-Gnawer. They still are buffing your other rat colonies. It is nice. However, Ogre Slumlord is a really expensive card for the rat deck to play. He's more of a mid-game card, so if you see him in your opening hand, probably mulligan it if it's the only good card in your hand. Next, we have Okaiba Gang Shinobi. It is a 5-cost 2/3 rat ninja, ninjutsu for 4. Whenever this card deals combat damage to a player, that player discards 2 cards. So again, we do use the ninjutsu ability that this card has to great effect with our deck. Marrow-Gnawer giving our cards fear, allowing our rat colonies to hit our opponents for free. We ninjutsu one of them out. This card comes in to take that place of that rat colony. Hits our opponent, they have to discard 2 cards. And then from there, we're just kind of golden. If we have to hard cast this card, because it is a rat, it does have fear, so it still gets to do what it wants to do. I found this card just to be really good. It is kind of niche, but I found it just to be nice enough. Like I said, I really like controlling my opponent's hand. So this and some of those other cards we talked about earlier that, just mess with their opponent's hand is nice. However, if this card is too expensive for your liking, replace it with a rat colony. Next, we have Vanquisher's Banner. It is a 5-cost artifact. When this card enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. Whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, draw a card. The reason we run Vanquishing Banner to any of the other utility artifacts like Coat of Arms is because with Vanquishing Banner, when we do cast a creature card, it allows us to draw a card where the other utility artifacts don't do that. They do buff up cards just like Vanquishing Banner does. However, like I said, that drawing is just too nice to pass up in my opinion. Like I said before, rats are really cheap, so we tend to have very few cards in our hands, so replenishing our hands is always nice, and Vanquishing Banner does that better than any of the other utility artifacts like Coat of Arms or Herald's Horn. Next, we have Meathook Massacre. It is a X-cost legendary enchantment. When this card enters the battlefield, each creature gets -X/-X until the end of the turn. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So when you cast this card, you choose a value for X. It costs 2 additional black mana on top of the value for X. It works as a board wipe, and then after this card comes out, whenever our cards are dying, it's pinging our opponent for 1 damage. Meathook Massacre is still probably the best board wipe we have in MTG Arena. We could swap this card out for Bontu's Last Reckoning. However, the fact that it locks us for a turn, I personally found just to be too extreme of a cost. Well, Meathook Massacre will wipe our opponent's board of whatever things they have from turn 4 going on. Also, if we have to board wipe mid-game when we've got a ton of rats, at least when our rats are dying, it will be pinging our opponent. If you're building this deck in IRL, just get rid of this card, replace it with something like a Damnation if you want to. And now we move on to our lands. We do run 1 Bojuka Bog because, exiling target player's graveyard is kind of required nowadays in Commander. We do run Castle Lochwain. The reason that we do run Castle Lochwain is just because we can pay 3 mana and tap it to draw a card, which means we will be losing life, but normally, like I said, we don't have a lot of cards in our hands, so we're not going to lose too much life to this card. And the drawing, like I said, is just incredibly strong for a rat deck, which is why this card is in the deck instead of a swamp. But if you'd rather just put a basic swamp in, by all means go ahead. Obviously, we do have to run Paraxine Tower. It is a legendary land. Sacrifice a creature, add 2 black mana. We do create enough tokens that we can get good use out of Paraxine Tower. Also, nowadays, at least from what I've seen, there's so many decks that like to run those 1 to 2 cost prison cards where our commanders become 1/1 frogs or whatever. So Paraxine Tower is something of a niche way of getting rid of our commander to put it back in the command zone while generating us mana, which is why I do like this card, just because it is versatile. And then if necessary, we can just sacrifice rat colonies or whatever to get more mana to cast more rat colonies. And then we do run 33 swamps. So all in all, this deck is incredibly powerful, incredibly fun, incredibly creature heavy with 48 creatures in it and 36 lands, meaning that there isn't a lot of room for anything else. So we do have 8 instants, 2 sorceries, and 3 artifacts. Like I said, guys, this deck is incredibly fun. I really hope you guys will enjoy the videos, and I'll see you guys at the outro.
Close your eyes.
Alright guys, and there you have it. That is our Rats Historic Brawl deck. Like I said guys, I hope you enjoyed. There is no standout card for this deck because there's actually 30 copies of that card in the deck. Rat colonies are just so good. They swarm so fast, and like I said, they get out of control just so much quicker than what you think. The +1/+0 for each other rat you control doesn't sound like a lot, but as you've seen from those videos, it just gets out of control so fast. And it sucks sacrificing big creatures to these little 2/1s. When at least they start out as 2/1s, they get really big really quick. And yeah, you guys have also saw the couple times that we were able to ninjutsu out something really cool. Was nice, kind of niche, but yeah, I find it fun enough. Maybe I'll retitle this deck and call it Ninja Rats, but I don't think I run enough ninjutsu cards to do that. But anywho guys, if you guys like this video, please remember to like and subscribe. And don't forget guys, leave me comments down below. Tell me things that I could improve in the deck. Like I said, I do own this deck in real life, so my IRL deck is really close to this deck. So if you guys can think of things to help me improve the deck, let me know guys. I'd love to see. And yeah, if you guys make enough good suggestions, I might have to come back and do an updated deck list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.